$1,000 push. And so he has a great message, guys, on selling sets. A lot of us have seen his dropping down video. I think I've memorized his dropping down video and that one sheet he has for selling sets. And so today is going to be a little bit more in depth of how to increase your average order. I remember, guys, when I was selling just mostly like buy three, get one free or buy four, right? And then I got introduced like the showstoppers and the starter sets. And, that of course increased my average order and also helped me close with a lot of Cutco owners as well. So I'm going to hand over, guys, to Mr. Dante Reynolds. And yeah, if you guys want to check the chat box for this document, and Dante, by the way, let's give him a big round of applause. He's waking up at 6 a.m., guys, to deliver this message. So thank you, Mr. Dante. By the way, he's done like everything in Cutco except for basically be the CEO. He's been an assistant manager, he's been a sales rep, he's been a CSP, he's been a district office manager, a division office manager, a pilot sales manager. There's nothing this individual cannot do. And yes, we love Angie too. I don't know if she's with you, but we love Angie. But
No,
yes,
she's not
Dante,
here
go
today.
ahead and take it away. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sounds good. Wow, that was a great intro, John. One of the things I always like about running these workshops with Gulf Coast is that you guys are really good at intros. You guys are really
Heck
good at
yeah.
making people feel good, so I really like that. So I appreciate it. I got a couple of faces here I recognize here. So Josh, good to see you. Kaden, good to see you. Got Isabella. Let's go. As well, we got Evan here too. Let's go. As well. So I know there's a couple of you guys that I haven't met before. So obviously John gave me a really warm entry into this whole thing. I just wanted to let you guys know that yes, I am, even though I'm out of state here for right now, working a Cutco event and stuff, trying to sell more Cutco. I wanted to make sure one of my favorite things about being an events team coordinator for Gulf Coast is working with young reps. I remember in the early days when I was a brand new rep, was fine, wasn't great, wasn't even probably a little bit below average kind of thing. And it took a little bit of time to get good at Cutco. And one of the reasons why I like running these workshops for reps like y'all, since you're newer and just trying to figure this whole thing out, is just really just putting a microscope over some of the important parts. So for today specifically, we're going to be going over selling sets, basically how to sell pieces of wood with knives in them. And so if that is something that sounds exciting to you to learn how to sell more block sets, that's what we're going to be going over here this morning. It's one of my personal strengths. If I get a new customer in front of me, there's a very good chance that they're probably going to buy a block set. Now, with that being said, I just want to make sure that you guys know this. Some of the things I'm going to cover this morning are going to sound, again, very similar to like your training seminar, but there's going to be a couple of extra nuggets that are going to be sprinkled throughout here, so we're all on the same page. Anything that sounds familiar is just a reminder. And what I've learned in this business is a lot of times we just need a lot of reminders and like just really understand why we're doing what we're doing and why we're saying what we're saying at specific moments to actually get the sales that we want. Be able to take kind of like how John said, someone who would normally buy a buy three, get one free. And because of a couple of tweaks that you make, you're able to turn it into an actual set. It could be a homemaker, a galley, a starter set, a bigger set, doesn't matter. It's just really the most important thing that you have to focus on when you're selling sets is just three things, and these three things is the what you should be focused on here for today. So, if you're taking notes, which I would highly encourage you to do, these are the three bullet points we're going to focus on. Number one is about building value. Pretty normal concept. You guys have heard that a lot in our business. This is not just a Cutco thing. This is an everything thing. If people think something costs more than what it actually does, that's a good value. That's a good deal. That's how people buy stuff. If the invert is the alternative, then that's how people go, it's not a good deal, quote, it's not worth it, et cetera, et cetera. Like something is $1,000 and then they see it's actually $2,000. It's more than what they expect. Even though it could be a good product, if it's more than what they expect, you're going to get more no's. The other way, if they think it's going to cost $2,000 and it's actually $1,000, the inverse is all, that's a good deal. That's awesome. That's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. That very much applies to Cutco. And so I'm going to give you a couple of nuggets here when we get to the building value part on how to build price expectation. Second bullet we're going to cover here today is going to be names and uses. This is one of the funny things. The number one objection we get on someone buying Cutco is obviously price. Price is not cheap. It's a little bit more, it's more expensive than you get from the average knives, but there's a reason why people buy it all the time. So one of the big mistakes that I did when I was a newer rep was whenever I'd run across a customer, I'm like, oh man, this is it. They love to cook. They love me. They could buy everything they want to. They're a good customer and all that kind of stuff. And then they buy less than what I expected them to buy because I just kind of didn't do a great job with building building value in the pieces in the set, so they just didn't see a need to actually get a set. And that was a hard mistake I had to learn. So learning how to actually do quality names and uses to where it really just comes down to not if they're going to buy, it's just really more about how much they're cool with spending. And then the third point we're going to cover is rapport is key. At the end of the day, I'm sure like you guys have all done demos and sold Cutco at this point. Who here has sold Cutco to somebody or at least shown Cutco to somebody who already owns some Cutco?
Oh, me.
Like pretty much everyone, right? So the feedback, the reviews on Cutco for people who have had Cutco for a while, it's all top tier. It's like 5 out of 5 stars, like best knives ever got, all the kind of good stuff, right? So the idea is that if someone sees that the money makes sense and the stuff that comes in the set makes sense, then really it just comes down to is do they have enough likability and have enough trust with you that the decision they're about to make is a good decision? We know it's a good decision. We know if they buy Cutco, they will not regret it. But a new customer doesn't always know that because they haven't done this before. So one of the important things that you have to do is build value in the price, build value in the names and uses, and then also build value when it comes to rapport is key. So we're going to talk about, let's kind of unpack this a little bit. So first part, building value. So a couple sub bullets here that you want to write down as we go through this. First little sub point on building value is that it has to be expensive. You know, one of the things that I really love about the training manual is that there's a section called features and benefits. I believe you guys still have it in your training manual, correct?
Correct.
Talk about the handle, the steel, the double D edge, all that kind of good stuff. And then Cutco was really smart whenever they put it into the training manual of saying, I think it's like 5 or 6 or 7 different times now, where they talk about a feature and then they go, now this makes Cutco more expensive, but it's totally worth it because of blank, blank, and blank. Does that sound familiar at all?
Yep.
Yeah. So think about this for a second. Why do you think Cutco puts that in there in that particular section like 5 or 6 or 7 different times? Because they want the customer's price expectation to go down, or do they want the price expectation to go up?
We go up.
Definitely up. And here's the thing. If we definitely want it to go up, the goal is throughout the whole demo that obviously they like Cutco and they want to get something. But at the same time, every time we mention the words that makes this more expensive, their price expectation goes up. And if you do that enough times throughout the whole demo, then by the time that you get to the closing part with everything, if they believe that a homemaker set is, 3,500 bucks, and then you show them it's half that price at 1715, what kind of reaction are you probably going to get most likely? Oh,
Excitement.
yeah. And here's the thing, guys. You're never going to say like, oh, that's cheap. Like, because it's not. But what you are going to get, that's how you know you're getting good at this job, is that when you start getting more and more customers that say, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Oh, okay. They have some sort of positive reaction when you actually show them the price. Because here's the reality. In the knife world, Cutco is unbelievable value. And there's a reason why German brands like Wusthof and Hinkels have been around longer than Cutco because their reputation precedes them. They have great products. We have a better product with a way better warranty. They don't really have a warranty, and it's American made and all the other things we know about. So the fact that people will buy those other brands that are around roughly the same price and quality without having a sales rep to tell them anything, they're just buying it based off price and reputation. That's why people buy Cutco because it's a better value for a similar price. And so you have to be on board with Cutco as a price point. So that kind of brings me to my next sub bullet point, which is you have to have 100% product conviction. So I am curious, and I'm going to need some interaction here. So I'm going to need your hands. So showing me your hands on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you believe that Cutco is worth the price that you pay to get it, considering it's American made, high quality, guaranteed forever, and you never have to buy this again? Like truly never have to buy this again. 10 being like, yep, Dante, I'm sold. Best knives ever, totally worth the price that you pay for them, all that stuff. If you're a 5, if you're a 7, if you're an 8, I just kind of want to get a lay of the land here and kind of see where we're at. But if you guys can all hold your hands up, what we're working with, that'd be great. Okay, we got some 10s, we got 9, we got 10s. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So I know we have mostly 10. So here's the point I'm trying to make. If you're not a 10, then you got to ask yourself why you're not a 10. So if you're a 9, if you're a 7, whatever it is, there's something that's holding you back. And you're the only one that can answer that question. So something I want you to think about as we're going throughout here today is that I want you to really think, okay, I know Cutco's good. Duh. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be selling if I didn't think it was good. I know Cutco is expensive, but I know it has great value to it. So what's holding me back from being a 10 out of 10? And so once you figure out that reason, anything that you can do to get yourself to a 10 out of 10 on like conviction of price kind of thing, it will serve you at a higher level. And what I mean by that is, can we all agree that your customers can tell if you are bought into what you're selling?
100%.
Of course. Absolutely. Like customers can feel that. And so if you believe in it, that enthusiasm and confidence just comes out naturally whenever you're showing this stuff. I had a customer yesterday. I'm working at a show out in California. They need a little bit of help with staffing on. And I remember working with someone, they're like, oh man, I've heard about Cutco, but man, it's just so expensive. And I was like, yeah, dude, absolutely. No. And I was like, hey man, when you say the word expensive, like what do you mean by that? And I got him to like open up. He's like, man, it's just a lot of money for knives. I've bought the same set from Walmart for years, blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, okay. Well, do you mind if I just show them to you real quick, just for fun? And he's like, sure, why not? And I realized he's never actually seen a demo. He's just heard about us from like friends and family. And so I do the thing, and he buys a set of knives. Who'd have thunk? So the idea is like the difference between someone buying Cutco and not buying Cutco, a big part of that change is based on what we do as reps. But he could just feel it every time he hit me with the man, that's so expensive, man, that's all the price. I just like repelled it, and I was just like had a big smile on my face, and I was like, bro. I mean, we had a good rapport going, so I got to the bro status with him. I was like, bro, dude, I'm like, I get what you're saying. I'm 36, I'm married, I got a dog, I got a wife, and everything. Like, I get it, but I don't know of too many things where we were looking at a galley set. I was like, I don't know of too many things that I can think of where you can spend 1,200 bucks on something that's going to last for multiple decades and actually be used every single day. And when I said that with him as a homeowner could relate to that. And he thought about it for a second. He's like, see, he's like, I know you're right, but this is just hard. And I'm like, of course it's hard, dude. Buying Cutco the first time is never easy. It's actually the hardest thing with Cutco is buying it the first time because you're not used to doing this before. That makes all the sense in the world. But as you can imagine, once people make the purchase and they actually own the knives, just like your friends and family you were telling me about, there's a reason why. Like, there's not a mystery on why people actually have these forever and they're all raving fans. So sometimes you just got to rip the band aid, do something you know you need to do, and just call it a day and move on with your life. So let me ask you, do you think you would regret this if you did purchase hypothetically? And he's like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, okay. And does the X amount of dollars today on the 5 pay, does that like kill it for you? Like, you're getting up on the street? And he was like, no, definitely not. We could definitely do that. And I was like, oh, well. And then I gave him a little extra incentive. I gave him some free shears to do it. And he was like, all right, I'm sold, and gave me his card. And so you can make sure that like my conviction overrode his objection. Of course, I've been doing this a lot longer than you guys. So like I feel naturally confident with having those conversations with people, but you'll get there at some point. It's just going to take some time. You just got to keep doing demos and keep working with customers and keep going to things like SC1 is great because SC1 so many people on stage and like roundtables and stuff at the time that like taught me a lot of things. I'll be there too, by the way. So like I will meet you guys and like I'll have a roundtable and everything to answer questions. Okay. For time purposes, we'll keep it going. So building value. The last little sub bullet point on this is checking two. What I mean by deny. So if there's no value built, like again, if they think it's 1,000, it's 2,000, it's not a good deal. It's not a good value. You're going to lose people. People are going to say no. That's why you have to do a great job with your demo and building value and price expectation. The second thing is like once that box is checked, this is why the names and uses are really important because if you build a lot of want and desire and it makes a lot of sense why they should have most of the pieces in a set, then you're not going to get as many objections of people saying, "Can I buy just one knife? I mean, this set is great, but can I just like get it without like these things? Oh, I would never use that. Oh my gosh, that's so many knives." Like all of those things, those are all the same objection. It's all just a names and uses objection. It means that something in names and uses didn't connect with the customer. Like there's something we didn't do right, probably, and that causes that prompts customers to say certain things. Which kind of leads me to my next point here. Well, I guess before we lead to the next point, names and uses. I just want to make sure if there's anything you've written down on building value, just write two little check boxes, one money, one knives. And then once they find a set where the money makes sense and they're going to use most of the knives in it, it's really hard to say no to that because it would be illogical to do so. If the money makes sense and they're going to use most of the knives in it, not all the knives, most of the knives, once those two boxes are done, you usually have a sale. Really, the only thing I can think of is like, man, it's a good value. I use the pieces, but this stuff's going on right now, so I can't quite do a homemaker, which is fine. That they're not saying they don't want to buy a Cutco, they just can't do a homemaker for whatever reason. That's why dropping down is in play, and then you just got to find something that works for them. Pretty simple. All right, let's hit the second bullet point. Second bullet point is names and uses. So I've kind of hit this a little bit, but let's kind of go deeper. Have to. So this is going to be interactive here for a second. So feel free to unmute yourself or throw it in the chat box if you like. But you need to believe what's included in each set. So I just want you to think about a homemaker plus eight, paring knife, trimmer, spatula, all the way to the bread knife, butcher knife, and carving set. So look at everything here in your brain. And I really want you to be honest with yourself on, is there anything in the set that you have a hard time selling, or anything that you personally are just not like 10 out of 10 on, where you're like, yeah, Dante, I know it's cool, but I'm just not quite there with it. So any pieces that you have a hard time selling or you get objections about, bless you, Aaliyah. I saw those sneezes. They were silent sneezes because you're on mute. But
Thank you.
the main you're welcome. So I want you guys to think about if there are any in the homemaker set that you're like, want to throw some pieces at me, and I'll see if I can help you maybe sell it a little bit better, or at least teach you guys how I sell the piece.
I would say the only piece that's like just not as convicted as the other pieces in the homemaker is probably the butcher knife.
Josh Varro, is this a you thing, or are you doing it for your people?
Yeah. This is a me thing. I mean, I personally
Okay.
think the butcher knife is cool. I just, I don't ever get like a, oh my God, I love the butcher knife. You know what I mean? Like, I don't ever get like a,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Okay, cool. So you guys, this is gonna kind of piggyback the next point I'm about to make, but I call it selling the key pieces. The key pieces in the homemaker are actually the ones that people don't usually get excited about, like a butcher knife. You need to sell people on the pieces that most people don't like and naturally gravitate towards. Because if they see the value in pieces like the butcher knife, then everything else falls in place already, and you're good. You did your job. So here to answer your question, for me personally, I like the training manual because you guys have the names and uses throughout there, obviously, like the next piece in your set, the next piece in your set. And so at the very end of that, you get the butcher knife and then the carving set, right? Is that kind of the layout? It's like butcher knife, and then afterwards it's like the carving set, and then you talk about the block and the table knives and all that stuff.
It
So
goes butcher, chef,
I
and then carving.
butcher, chef, carving. Okay, that works
Yeah.
too. Okay, they kind
Yeah.
of switched that a little bit.
Yeah,
So
I think they did that so they could put the chef knife so they could get the customer more excited. I think that's why they did that. I don't know.
that makes sense. I can understand that. So here's how I would view it, guys. Whenever I get right before the butcher knife, I always ask just one simple question. And I kind of group the butcher knife, the chef's knife, and the carving set kind of all together. Well, like the butcher and the carving set, but since you guys have the chef's knife in between, I think that's fine. You can kind of group these all together. So, anyways, the question I ask them is, I go, hey, real quick, I'm just curious, Mrs. Jones, do you guys ever do any meat or barbecue, like chicken, steak, and grilling? That's all I ask because I just want them to say what?
Yes.
Yes. That's it. That's all I care about. And it's the funniest thing, guys, because if you don't say that and you just go right into it with it, you'll definitely make sales. Like you will, but you won't have as many people be like excited, or you won't want to have as many people being like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. So before I go into that butcher knife, I just go, hey, quick question for you. Just curious, do you guys ever do any like chicken, steak, or barbecue at all? Like, do you guys do any type of meats? And then we're in Texas, so like 9 out of 10 people are going to say yes. And so when they say yes, I'll be like, okay, cool. Well, the next piece in your set is the butcher knife. And then you read it. But now it's different because they said, yes, I do chicken, steak, and barbecue. You're about to show them all the knives that people use for chicken, steak, and barbecue. You read your manual, people are more like, okay, they're more attached to that because they're seeing it in a different way. What we call reframing. If you can just kind of like ask that question, they're going to see it in a different way versus not asking that question. Hopefully that makes sense. That's a lot of words. And so, but yeah, that's how I would sell the butcher knife, Josh. That's really all I do. And then they're like, oh,
Okay,
okay, that makes sense.
I guess in my head, like the butcher knife. When I think like a meats knife, I don't really ever think the butcher knife because I like it's mostly just for like whacking things. For like a meat knife, I always think like the vajay carver, like the hardy slicer. That's usually where I go for like meat knife. But I guess the point of the question is to
Mhm.
transition into the butcher knife and the carving set,
Mhm.
and things like that. So that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So, butcher knife definitely is a meat knife for sure. So make sure, remember, like there's butchers and butcher shops, right? And so they're all about the meats. So that's how your customer is going to be thinking when you say the word butcher knife. And so just ask that question beforehand. You have more people that are, oh, okay, that makes sense. And they won't like call it a sword as much. You'll have those customers like, oh, it looks like a sword. And like, so you just tell them, ask that question, it sets the stage, and then there you go. So yeah, definitely 100%. I think we got time for like one more question on that. Do we have another piece out there that we need some help on,
Okay,
or are we all perfect? We're all perfect at
this
selling
is
the
more of
pieces.
like what, yeah, this is more what I hear because some team members only like they don't sell table knives, and I don't know how they don't sell table knives, but
What
like,
the
oh, we
what?
have steak knives. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, okay,
yeah,
I got that.
that's the
Yeah. So here's the thing.
objection.
If you ever have a team member who's or a rep who's ever struggling with selling table knives for whatever reason, this I would when someone tells me like, oh, we already have steak knives. That I say that I hear that as the same way as if someone told me like, oh, we don't need Cutco kitchen knives. We already have knives at home. But people still buy Cutco knives because they're obviously better. And so the idea is like when someone says like, "Oh, we already have good steak knives," I just let them know like, "Yeah, absolutely, Mrs. Jones. Like that's cool." By the way, just so you know, the thing about the table knives to make them muke is they're actually not a steak knife. They're a butter knife with a steak knife edge. And so what I really like about them is they're really two in one. So, and then I, take it and kind of hand it to them. You'll notice how lightweight it is, but it has that double D edge that from earlier. And by the way, this really helps if you haven't like cut the leather quite yet with them. If you've like cut the leather with them and they were really excited about it, it's a non-issue. But if like the leather cutting doesn't go right for whatever reason and there's not enthusiasm there, then maybe they say something, but it's usually not very common. So what I always tell people is this is like, hey, again, like, hey, well, the cool thing is it's not a steak knife. This is a butter knife with a steak knife edge. Cutco calls it a table knife because it's a two in one. So you know how most butter knives are like small and petite like this, but they don't have an edge. Like ironically, they don't even cut butter. So and then you have the steak knives that are kind of big and bulky, and they have a sharp point at the end there, and you really only use them for steak. The idea with Cutco is that you're kind of putting them together. It's two in one, like I said. So use them every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But whenever you are having those nice steak dinners, you have a knife that'll actually cut it. So you totally don't have to get the steak knives you don't want. I'm just letting you know, Mrs. Jones, that most people have the kitchen knives regret not getting the steak knives too. Can you feel that conviction, like that confidence I just ensue on the customer with just logic? And so the idea is like if you ever run across someone who struggles with that, that's like something you should keep in your back pocket if a customer ever says that to you. Okay, you're gonna learn a bunch of stuff like this like over time. Okay, so next thing here is selling the key pieces. So I kind of mentioned this already, but butcher knife, carving set, bread knife, forks, spatula spreaders sometimes. The pieces that usually people have objections on. It's rare if people have objections on a chef's knife or a paring knife or a trimmer. So the point I'm trying to make is it's like when you get to those parts of your names and uses, you have to be excellent at like turning it up a few notches with your to get people excited about the pieces that most people usually aren't naturally excited about. So when you talk about the spatula spreader, for example, you'd be shocked. There are people that are like, it's a butter spreader. I'm not excited about this. But then when you show them, it's like one of the best utility knives we make because it has the double D edge. So my wife does avocado toast all the time. She'll take the avocado, she'll take the spatula spreader, she'll cut it open with a sharp edge, and then she'll flip it to the dull side, and she'll slice it, scoop it, and spread it, and only have one thing to clean. And if you're talking to people that have kids, like, yeah, it's one of our best sandwich making knives. So you can scoop the peanut butter and jelly, spread the mayonnaise and mustard, cut the tomato and lettuce, cut the bread and the crust for the kids, and you only have one knife to clean. Whenever you have family over for like get togethers and stuff, if you ever do like casseroles, brownies, pies, cakes, anything like that, you can ice the cake, cut the cake, and serve the cake all with one knife. And so the idea, and I could go into all these, but for time purposes, like you guys get the idea. The point being is you have to be really good at selling those key pieces because if they see the value in those, the objection of I'm not going to use that kind of starts to wash away for most people. Not all people, but most people. And then by the time you get to the closing part, you're more likely to be able to get a homemaker, a galley, a bigger set, whatever. Okay, last sub point on this names and uses part. Using stories. I kind of already did this with you guys with my wife and the avocado thing with the spatula spreader, but making sure that, there's a saying on our events team that I really like that's like facts tell, but stories sell. So for you guys that have worked on the events team here before, you guys will probably heard me say this before too, but any stories that you can have to actually like tell customers and like paint a picture of what it's for, you can say the spatula spreader is good for all these things and you will sell a spatula spreader most of the time. But if you want customers to buy it more often, then you want to use a story and then talk about it. So again, I use my wife on the avocado story about the spatula spreader. Works like 99% of the time. People are like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then I just tell them like all the other things with the spatula spreader, kind of like what I just did for you guys now. Like that's my names and uses. But it doesn't feel like just a fact. It feels like a story because it is. I'm talking about my wife and how she uses it. That's more relatable. When I talk about like the even all the way down to like the garden pruners, like I talk about my mom and my grandma because my grandma has terrible carpal tunnel. She worked on computers most of her life and her hands are all messed up. And so the fact that she can only use like a Cutco pruners and a Cutco can opener because of like how good it is, that relates to a lot of people because my grandma's almost 90 and like she can't grip a lot of things anymore. Um, so find those stories, go to your family, go to your friends, people that have Cutco that like it, find their favorite things and just like steal stories from them and be like, yeah, my uncle this, my dad this. If you don't have a whole lot of stories about certain things, you can borrow stories from other reps. You obviously can't say like my wife Angie because that's a lie. Don't do that. It's not a good idea. What you should say is, hey, this guy I work with, Dante, his wife Angie uses it and does this. That's how you borrow a story. This guy I work with, Dante, his wife Angie actually uses the spatula spreader for this. That's how you do that. So get as many stories as you can. Helps a lot. Okay, I have a quote here for you guys. This is like a good little one-liner. In case for some reason, because guys, nothing's 100%. Everything I'm teaching you, you're going to have people that it happens to me too, where like no matter what you do, there's going to be some people sometimes that just don't get on board with everything in the set, and that's okay. That's why we make different sets. But one little one liner I learned many years ago, which helps a lot, is this: for customers, whenever they say, "That sounds great, Dante," and I really can I buy this set but without this piece? That's really great, Dante, but can I buy this set without these two pieces? If you haven't heard that before, you'll hear it at some point. So here's the point I'm trying to make with you guys is that when a customer tells me that, here's all I respond with. I go, absolutely, Mrs. Jones, we can definitely do that for you. By the way, and this is where the quote kicks in. By the way, even if you feel you won't use that one knife, it's still a better deal to buy it as a set and giving it away versus breaking it up and buying it piece by piece. So even if you feel you won't use this knife, it's still a better deal to buy it as a set and giving it away versus breaking it up and buying it piece by piece. And the funny thing is too, I've had this work quite a few times over the years where someone just really wanted to get a set, didn't matter what size set it was, and they just really weren't down for the fork. They really weren't down for the bread knife or whatever, it doesn't matter. Whatever they say they feel like they don't need, I just share that with them. And a really good percentage of the time they're like the light bulb goes off and they're like, "Oh, yeah, I guess that's true. Sure, we'll just do the set instead. Make it easy." Because you guys know this. A homemaker plus 8 is 1715 as a set. But if it's pieced out, like it's not an item number, like you just itemize everything, it's almost 2000. It's like 1980. So they save about $270 buying the set as a set versus taking out that $170 fork and literally making it more expensive. So anytime that comes up, make sure that you go ahead and keep that in your back pocket. Okay, last bullet point here. Rapport is key to closing big. So a couple things on this. Customers feel more comfortable. They feel comfortable spending more with you when they feel more comfortable with you. The reality is this, guys. Cutco's a great product, best in class quality, amazing service, great warranty. But at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning of this, if customers aren't fully on board with like the rapport with you or the trust or whatever it is, you'll have customers that kind of like they're not fully confident on like the purchase going to make is going to be worth it because again, they haven't spent this much on good knives before. So it's logical to think that way or feel that way. So when I used to run an office many years ago, one of the things that our office was always good at was building rapport because I would actually force my reps when they would do like role play and drill for skill. We would do the script a lot, but we'd also role play building rapport on occasion. And the way you role play building rapport is your goal when you're role playing with your partner is to ask them 20 questions about themselves before you actually show them a Cutco knife. Now, sometimes when I say that, people are like, I have no idea how to ask 20 questions, Dante. Like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, well, you'd be kind of surprised how that can happen because like there's been so many times where like I work with a customer where I've never met before. Like this happened yesterday too. Like dude was walking by, dude was walking by with a Pokemon shirt, and I used to love Pokemon when I was a kid and everything when it first came out. I was like, dude, love your shirt, man. And he was like, oh yeah, and he had like a Charizard on it and everything. I was like, yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, love that stuff. I remember growing up with Pokemon. It's amazing. He's like, yeah, and he had his like kid with him who had like a little Pikachu doll from the carnival. And I was like, you like Pokemon too, kid? And he was like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. I was like, who's your favorite Pokemon? He's like, oh, Blastoise. And I'm like, oh, dude, man of culture. I love that. This is great. I was like, by the way, like, how's the fair going? They're like, fair's going great. I'm like, cool. I was like, yeah. I was like, this is my first time here. I'm from Texas. Never been here before. Like, what's like the best food here? But and it just spiraled into this whole thing. And ironically, I probably got like maybe whatever amount of questions deep with them after a couple minutes. And then the husband just randomly was just like, actually, I've heard of y'all before. I've heard of Cutco knives. I was like, oh, yeah, is that right? He's like, yeah, my knives are trash. Like, can you tell me about these? And I was like, yeah. And I did my demo. He didn't buy a lot. He bought like a few pieces, but he bought something. And I was totally started because I just built a lot of rapport at the beginning. It's important. Spend the time. It takes practice, by the way. You're not going to get good at it right away. I'm an incredibly introverted person. That was not a skill I was gifted with. So I had to learn that skill. I had to like develop that skill. And so, but once you learn it, if you're an introverted salesperson, but you can also talk to people, deadly, absolute lethal. And so I would highly recommend that if you're not great at building rapport yet, you need to practice it. Okay. Next sub point, quality time before and during the demo. A lot of people mistake that building rapport is only at the beginning. Okay, I'm going to talk about their job and their plant and their pets and their kids and all that stuff, all the normal things. That's good. Do that stuff. But what they don't do is like once they start like Cutco mode, they like don't make any jokes. They just become a robot and all that kind of stuff. And the goal is like, can you do a good job following your manual word for word? And can you sit there and can you get good enough at your demo to where you have it memorized word for word, to where you can also sprinkle in a couple of dad jokes. Dad jokes are great. When you talk about the spatula spreader and everything, have y'all been taught the B sharp joke? Does that sound familiar at all?
Sure. Yeah.
B sharp, right? So for you guys that don't know what the B sharp joke is, you take the spatula, you go, this is actually our best musical instrument we make, Mrs. Jones. And they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. Were you ever in band or choir or anything? Doesn't really matter what they say. I was like, yeah. So I'm going to play a note for you. No one's ever gotten this right. So let me know what you think it is. And you take the spatula, you go ding, ding, ding on the table. And I'm like, what note do you think that is? And they're like, I don't know, A flat. And they're going to think you're weird. And I'm like, no, Mrs. Jones, it's a B sharp because your Cutco knives will always be sharp. I know, Brianna. It's hilarious. And so the idea is
My
like you
favorite
just have
one is whenever I genuinely have them going for a minute and they're like, "Oh, cool, fun fact, be sharp," and then I say the punchline and they're like, "Oh, you're stupid."
exactly, but it makes them laugh. And so the idea is really simple is there's dad jokes in there, there's all kinds of stuff in there, but even little things like the stories I was telling you about, using the my wife with the avocado story, my grandmother with the can opener story, like all that kind of stuff. Like those things are personal. All rapport is just being personal and building trust with somebody. It takes time to get good at that. It takes practice. And honestly, most adults, I can tell you this because I'm a freaking adult now. Like again, I'm 36, married with a dog and all that stuff. And so, like, I can tell you, the vast majority of adults do never learn how to actually communicate with other humans. It is astounding. You would think people grow up and they know that. They don't. So it is definitely a skill that you have to learn, and it will serve you very well if you do. Okay. Last couple of bullets. Okay. Sharing goals tilts customers into bigger purchases. So when I was a new rep, I actually was that rep that was like, I was like kind of gun shy with building with sharing goals because I wanted people to buy Cutco not because of my goals. I wanted to buy it because it was good. So I always felt weird about it. But then I can't remember who shared this with me. It was many years ago. They're like, dude, if you just do a good job sharing your goals, you're basically people are just going to make purchases they already want to make, but they're just justifying the purchase to do it with you. I was like, ah, there it is. That's the nugget. I was like, oh
Like, can you
yeah,
say
they
that again?
want, yeah. So basically, sharing goals will prompt customers to make a purchase they already want to make. They're just justifying the purchase to do it with you. That's it.
I had
That
this
is
happen to
fire.
me literally on my last demo.
Yeah. Like people don't buy Cutco strictly only to be nice. They don't do that. It's they like Cutco, they see the value in it, but to create a sense of urgency, sometimes goals is what people need to justify a purchase. Like I don't need Girl Scout cookies. I like Girl Scout cookies, but whenever I see them, I always like to share this because I remember a handful of years ago, I saw two Girl Scout cookie girls in one day, right? Found one. I already wanted them. I was an easy sell. I walk up. The kid wasn't doing crap. She was sitting behind the table on her little iPad or whatever, not talking to anybody. Mom was doing all the work. I hated that, but I wanted Girl Scout cookies, and I can't always find them everywhere. Sometimes they're everywhere, and sometimes they're never anywhere. So I just remember going up, bought a couple boxes, went on my way. Me and Angie ate lunch, and then we came out of lunch, and there was like boom, like this other Girl Scout just like spawned out of the ether out of nowhere. She wasn't there when we went in, and she was just like, "Hey, how you doing? Do you want to buy some Girl Scout cookies?" And we were like, "Oh no, sorry, we literally just bought some like an hour ago." And she had the best response, and she was like, "That's great. Which ones didn't you get?" And I was like, "That was great. You're gonna sell Cutco in a handful of years. It's gonna be awesome."
That's what I was gonna say. Get it so
Yeah.
Cutco.
And so but I liked it because obviously like she gives a damn, like she cares. And so I was like inspired to like, okay, I'm gonna at least come check it out. So I found some boxes that I didn't get. I was like, and it was like a new flavor I didn't know about, so I got one of those. And the girl was really money because she took it a step further. It was great. They're like $4 a box, so I gave her a 10 for the two. And then before she gave me the $2 change, she was like, donation for the cause. And I was just like, man, what a hustler. This is great. God, you need to sell knives. And so I just remember saying that. And I just left that booth just feeling like the utmost respect for this girl, even though she's like, I don't know, freaking 7 or something. And I remember leaving. I totally like bought more stuff. I wanted to, but she got me to do it because of like she shared her goals with me. She's like, I'm trying to sell this many boxes. And also her enthusiasm like really put it over the top. So be Girl Scout girl number 2. Don't be Girl Scout number 1. Be number 2 who's willing to like go out there and like do the thing. Don't be the one that's sitting behind the table and mommy's doing everything. That doesn't help you. Okay. So last bullet here. Like me, know me, trust me, pay me. I learned this from Josh Mueller. And if you guys don't know the name Josh, Josh is one of the all-time best reps, over $11 million in personal sales. He was my original coordinator when I was on the events team, like over 10 years ago when I first started. And I remember random team meeting, he was teaching us the concept of rapport. And so this always stuck with me. He's like, people need to like you before they get to know you. Once people get to know you, they'll begin to trust you. And once people trust you, people feel comfortable buying from you. So I'll do that again. People have to like you before they want to get to know you. Once people know you, they begin to trust you. Once people trust you, they feel comfortable buying from you. And it's in that order. So, how do you create likability to start things off? You ask people questions about themselves. People never get to talk about, like, really get to talk about themselves too much. Like, naturally, people will talk about themselves unprompted, and no one likes that. But if someone's asking you questions about yourself, that feels good. And so when someone's asking, like, hey, where are you from? What do you do for work? Do you like it? That all the things. Once you get like 20 plus questions deep with somebody and you spend like 30 minutes, maybe even an hour sometimes with rapport, you'd be shocked at how easy your demo, how smooth your demo is if you have a good rapport at the beginning. Sprinkle the stuff throughout the whole demo. Obviously, it's gravy. It's cake after that. Once you have that likability with somebody by asking them questions, it is natural that eventually they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been talking about myself this whole time. It's like, by the way, why are you doing Cutco again? You said something about school, you said something about this or something about that. And then what they're doing is they're trying to get to know you. That's how you know you're getting into the second part with rapport. They want to know you. They're like, oh yeah, I go to school at blank. I'm majoring in this. Here's why, all the things. Here's why I'm selling Cutco, all the stuff. Like once they know a little bit about you, it creates that I know this person better kind of thing, that feeling. And then once that's established, that trust is like begins. Now, trust obviously is built stronger over time, but for where you guys are at right now, there's enough trust built where when after you show them Cutco, they're going to see it's a good product and they know the price is probably going to be worth it if you do a good job with it. So by the time it gets down to decision making time at the end, because they trust you, they trust that this is a good purchase. If they have the means, they're probably going to make a purchase. And it's as simple as that. Like me, know me, trust me, pay me. So that's everything I got for you guys. I know I just basically just vomited on you guys for like 40 minutes right there, but that's as far as selling sets go. That's my beliefs when it comes to it. I'm really good at selling sets. There's some other advanced things you will learn over time, but here's the last thing I'll leave you with is that first thing is you got to sell a lot of homemakers and galley sets before you start learning how to sell the two bigger sets. So at SC1 on Monday, I'm going to have that roundtable, and I know people are going to come up and ask me about how do you sell ultimates? How do you sell signature sets and all that stuff? And then my first question I'm going to ask them is how many homemakers and galleys have you sold first? Because it makes no sense for me to teach you how to sell the two bigger sets if you haven't sold enough of the medium size sets, the homemakers and the galleys. Okay. So sell a lot of homemakers, sell a lot of galleys, build that confidence. And once you get to a certain level, then I have no problem teaching you that stuff. And obviously for you guys that worked on the events team, our scripts are built to teach you guys how to sell those sets too as well. But obviously, you have to sell a certain amount to be on the events team in the first place. But, anyways, that being said, guys, I'm open for questions if there's time for it. John, I'm not sure what the time crunch is for them to do a phone jam and all that, but I'm all ears if there are questions.
Wow. Dante, I this is what I love about Cutco. The greats, the best of the best, they just I always learn something new. So thank you, Dante. Just took like 2 pages of notes there, and I know how to sell a butcher knife now.
Hey,
So
let's go. Nice.
thank you. But yes, any questions, guys? Anything that you would like Dante to repeat?
Um, so for me, it's like I know you mentioned like you can't sell the bigger sets until you've sold a lot of the medium sets. I've sold a decent amount of those.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to work on like getting more conviction with the bigger sets. The thing that's holding me
Mm-hmm.
back, Dante, is the fact that I had this belief kind of in the back of my mind, like, do they really need all of that? I'm scared of like upselling them to something that they don't need. That's my fear, and I've told Kathy that, and she thought it was funny too. But I
Okay.
wanted to hear what would you say for me, like, to help me develop more conviction in those bigger sets.
So the first thing is the reason why probably me and Kathy smile and think it's funny is because we used to probably think the same thing. At least I know I definitely did. And so it's funny that you're saying the same thing I said over 10 years ago when I was in your shoes. It's like a full circle moment.
Oh
So,
wow.
so here's what I would tell you to that. Um, don't think about the ultimate and the signature on like necessarily that stuff. When you say things out loud of like, I don't know if people need that, and I would feel bad selling something that people don't really need or upselling them to something they don't need. Well, I would make the argument that there's probably some new reps that probably feel the same way about a homemaker plus eight. There's probably some reps out there that probably feel like, well, I really don't want to like oversell them. Like I wouldn't feel good about that, which I think that's a good principle to have. Absolutely. But there's people that feel that way about a homemaker. And I think you and I would both agree that's not a good place to be in. Like that's not accurate. Like people will use a homemaker set. So let's start with that. Um, the way that you get good at selling a homemaker is by having conviction in the price and having conviction in the pieces. So wouldn't it make sense to have the same philosophy, the same formula when it comes to selling a signature and ultimate? Can you have conviction in the price and can you have conviction in the pieces? If you can personally check those two boxes, then you're going to sell more of them. So the signature pieces, that's usually the next step. Cheese knife, hardy slicer, petite santoku shears. I think we all like those, and the big steak knives. So I don't think anyone has a problem with probably the signature set. Now, when you look at the ultimate set, it's 6 pieces, right? You got a 4-inch paring knife, you got a boning knife, you got a vegetable knife, you got a cleaver, you got a petite slicer, and you got a salmon knife. You got all those. Well, I don't know about you, but I really like those 6 pieces. That 4-inch paring knife, people love buying that thing. Raw meats boning knife, absolutely. The cleaver, if you know how to sell it the right way, is one of the most underrated knives we make. The veggie knife, aka the veggie cleaver, super great on squash. People don't think about that for squash, but once they use it on squash, oh, people love it. I saw so many vegetable knives. Petite slicer, that's probably the only one where I could see like could be probably swapped for something else. But whenever I tell people it's for bagels, baguettes, and like loaves at the table, it's just part of the set. It's like, do you need two forks? Maybe not necessarily, but it's a part of the set. You'll use them eventually. And then that salmon knife, I mean, Kaden, you're on the events team. You've heard me talk about the salmon knife. Like that thing is like a freaking lightsaber. It's one of the sharpest knives we make, paper thin, like oh my gosh, all the things. So with that being said, if you're like, okay, I can see the value in those pieces, like I can see people liking those, you check the knives box. Now it just comes down to price, which is just me as a salesperson understanding that people buy ultimate sets. There's a reason why we still make them. Now, is $3,900 a big purchase? Depends on who you ask. For some people, it is. For some people, not so much. If you ask a 19-year-old college kid, $3,900 is all the money in the world. But also, if you ask a parent to buy like the new Xbox for $500, $600, whatever consoles go for, they think you're freaking crazy. That doesn't even come with games. So the idea is it just comes down to what you value. People in their 30 to 60-year-old age range that are married and have a house and kids and all that stuff, they've spent $5,000 on refrigerators, and those fridges break after 5 to 7 years, and no one's coming to save them. So they're used to spending that much on refrigerators, appliances. My gutters for my house cost $3,000. They're freaking gutters. They're gutters. I don't think it's crazy to spend $3,900 on a complete set of Cutco knives, my opinion. But if you're not there quite yet, what you need to do is you need to build conviction in price and put conviction in the pieces. So again, kind of like a customer, check both those boxes. And once both those boxes are checked for you as a sales rep, you will actually sell more of those sets, hands down, 100%. I sell more ultimates and complete sets now, strictly because I know like the price is worth it truly, and that the knives in it, they will definitely like. Anyways, it's my TED talk.
No, I love that, Dante. Also, Kate, try to just use the pieces too. Like set up a
Oh yeah,
contest with your manager. Like that's how I started selling bigger sets. Like I was a little scared of the cleaver because I was like, this knife weighs more than me. So I didn't really know how to sell it.
it's a heavy
But I
knife.
think yeah. But then I got introduced to pluckers by Dante, and now it definitely does not weigh more than me. So
That's right.
but
Pluckers is a beautiful
Dante, I was
choice.
scrolling up in our text messages. I was like, we either talk about fantasy football or pluckers. That's like all we all we talk
That's
about. But
true. It's really not about
um,
knives.
it's great, but no, I'll just try to get as many pieces as possible because yeah, the veggie knives I think are don't hate me for saying this, Dante. I like the veggie knives more than the chef knives. I'm just like I just
That's
love the
a
veggie
that's not a
knives.
hot take at all. That's not a hot take at all.
Yeah,
A lot of people will really like that vegetable knife. There's a reason why we make different sizes of them now.
they're hot cakes. Love that. Any other takeaways or questions, guys, before we start phone jam here?
Yeah, Dante. I really loved it. A lot of it was, and this is what I love from like learning about you specifically is like a lot of it I've definitely heard before, but I've never heard like I just got a lot of one-liners and just things that just like reframing things that I had never even like thought of before. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then like I've heard that before, but I never thought about it in that way. Like I
Hmm.
got a lot of that from you. I hear that from you a lot. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Josh. You've been fun having on the team and stuff. We're excited to have you back for the fall, by the way. It's gonna be great. But
I'm so excited. Yeah.
and so I think something you said is really profound. I may paraphrase this a little bit from what you just said, but like things you've already heard before, but you just you hear it a different way, or like you think about it a different way. And so something I would always tell you guys is that as you work with Cutco throughout the summer, fall, spring, some of you guys might be here for years, you have no idea. You're going to hear a lot of the same things over and over again, just said a different way or explained a different way from different people. And one of the beautiful things about this business is that a lot of different types of people sell a lot of Cutco. And as you go to more conferences and workshops and team meetings and blah, 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 and guest speakers and all that stuff, you're going to hear a bunch of different perspectives. And there's sometimes you'll hear the same message 5 times, but then that sixth time, someone will just say something a little bit different and then it hits home with you. This is why it's important that you go to all the workshops. This is why you important to go to all the conferences. This is why you go to that talk where you're like, oh, I've already heard that before. I'm like, bro, you're at $40,000 in sales. You have not heard enough of this thing. You need to sell more Cutco first. I'm at $2.7 million in personal sales. I am still learning how to sell sets better. I'm still learning. I'm literally paying a guy in California, a Cutco rep who's better than me, on how to sell more Cutco. And so it never ends. It just gets cooler as it goes. Like you just learn how to sell more on a year-to-year basis. So, um, anyways, I'll say that.
I love that, Dante. Thank you, Josh. Dante, I just want to credit to you, one for taking the time, but also like I mean, I've only known you for the past 6 years, but just in these
Mhm.
6 years, I've seen you grow, and I know you're investing a lot of time and energy into yourself as well to be better and
Mhm.
to grow your business and have your biggest pushes and coming from a lowly rep who like myself, I'm
Yeah.
picking up on new things that you're learning, so it's really impressive,
And
Dante. So thank you.
and if I can say one last thing here, and then I'll let you guys do calls because it's 7 o'clock my time, so I mean it's 9 o'clock y'all time. Y'all got to start making calls, and so everyone wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the managers. So John, I know you do a great job like building us up as reps and things like that. And I know you guys aren't in the field like boots on the ground as much when it comes to like working with customers directly. But man, I can't stress you guys enough. Like we wouldn't have a business without really good manager staff, like district managers, division managers, and things like that. So you get to see your district manager and your division manager pretty frequently. So don't make the mistake that a lot of new reps tend to make is like they like because it's their district manager, because they talk to them all the time, they don't really like sometimes some of the advice they get goes through one ear and out the other. You can't do that because when you stop learning, you're dying. And like one of your best resources, like consistent resources you have available is your district manager or your division manager. And so keep learning, keep asking questions. I promise you're not bothering them. And then as long as you're making calls and doing the job like consistently week in and week out, like you should always be focused on your next goal. And your district manager is here to remind you what your next milestone is, whether it's 10K, 20K, 50K, whatever it may be for you. Um, you're just trying to keep climbing that ladder. And I'm telling you, once you get to like 40, 45, even 50%, like once you start making that bonus money, oh my gosh, it's super exciting when you sell a homemaker and you make like 40% or 50% or whatever. Like that's super exciting. It's like a cheat code in real life. So, anyways, credit to you, John. Credit to Josh. Credit to all these guys here that are managers or former managers. Like I said, I was a manager myself for 4 years, and I wouldn't be a CSP if I wasn't a manager for sure. Like I wouldn't have made it this far. So, anyways, I'll let you guys make calls and everything, but that's everything I got for you officially.
Oh, thank you, Dante. I'm so glad I got that on recording.